film today. I was in the area looking at this extra car that I was considering, but it doesn't matter. But long story short, I was in the area of the shop, and funny enough, I wore this shirt. I can't see where you guys. I wore this shirt, not even planning to come to the shop today, and I ended up showing up. So since I'm visiting, I thought I'd get you guys a little shop update, see what kind of builds are going on in the shop, say what's up to Ronnie, and of course, he's gonna drop some knowledge that I have no idea what he's talking about. Well, slightly, but not to the level that he does. Look at that customer service, covering up everyone's Evo, make sure it doesn't get damaged. I don't see any other Evo shops in SoCal doing this. They just let your shit rot outside. Hey, Jeff! Jeff's been making progress with the shop car. He's got them things on. Jeff, when's this thing gonna run?
Hopefully in December.
December? Really?
Yeah.
That soon?
What do you mean? That's like 3 months from now.
December? That's like kind of soon, no, for this thing?
Okay, March.
For 1400 wheel?
Maybe March.
Okay, that's more realistic. That's more realistic. What?
Gotta think positive, dude.
Jeff, give me the lowdown. What is this?
It's a 2.1D stroker with freaking Apex powered coils. You know.
Oh yeah.
Freaking
Shout out to Apex.
6466.
He mailed me some.
It's cool.
What turbos are you running?
6466 PT.
What do you think it should make roughly?
Should make like 800.
On
low boost.
E90 or?
No, E85.
Really?
Yeah, it's gonna be his little daily.
What? Daily?
It's gonna be this guy's daily.
This is gonna daily. He's gonna daily this.
Yep.
Parker, right?
Yeah, Parker.
Parker, you're a nut.
Yeah, he's a savage.
That's good advertising.
Yeah, have to. Every engine though, we throw a Jerry sticker on.
If you guys don't know, the Savage package is their motor build. There's another one. There's two.
There's the Minion package.
What?
The Minion.
Minion?
For people that don't want to make that much power.
You're such a liar. That's not no such thing as a Minion package.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Here are the JRP Plus.
What's yours considered?
A super JRP Plus. JRP.
Do you guys offer that though? If someone wanted it?
If somebody wanted it, yeah, which would be like a full fill, 1/2-inch studs, dry sump.
Yeah, but that'd be like $50,000.
Like $30,000.
Yeah, see that.
Yeah, all that.
Anyone watching this knows when this thing opens, do you just fold it back up and put it back in? I've always wondered. Please let me know in the comments down below. So by the end of next month, or actually technically this month, but the starting of next month, I should have everything to tune my car and slap it all together. I've been talking to Jeff and Ronnie about kind of booking an appointment and everything, just because it's going to take a long time to put everything together, just because it's a lot of parts. And some of the things I'm installing may take... This guy's the worst to be vlogging around. It's going to take like half a day to install, so we'll see. The man himself.
What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
I know you from YouTube. I know you. I've seen your videos. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 2.1 that we built. This is the 2.1 that you actually walked in on me building.
Oh, in the last video?
Yeah.
Oh, how weird.
That's the one.
That's crazy, and now it's in the car.
Funny, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so it's a 2.1, JRP spec 2.1, 162 mil rod, Sheepy 6466 forward-facing kit, obviously twin scroll. So hopefully get a bit of better spool, you know, from the twin scroll effect.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that works is basically the companion cylinders in the firing order. The companion cylinders basically merge into one collector, and then the other two merge into another collector. So you get, you know, you get better scavenging from the exhaust gases and it spools up the turbo a little bit faster. He has a skunk 2 manifold. The car's still on the stock ECU, so we have to put the whole wiring harness in there because he literally took everything off. He painted the engine bay. So that's that. We got a nice Sheepy 4.5-inch intercooler with their new
yeah, this thing looks
thermal
sick.
coating that drops temperatures pretty drastically from what they advertise, and I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has regular 2.5-inch piping to a 3-inch inlet. So this is a very nice intercooler unit. These are all CSF cores, by the way, so very good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has the IRP shifter that I did not know existed until Jeff and Parker, actually the owner of the car, told me about it. So that's a very nice shifter. That's actually a 65% reduction in the throw.
Was it really?
It's super short shifted.
Damn.
Yeah, shifter base, and it's a bit of a piece, so it's beautiful. So right now we're waiting for the catch can to come from STM. We ordered a catch can and it wasn't what we wanted, so we just ordered the firewall BFC, the big fucking can for the firewall.
Yeah.
And then what we did is on this motor, I don't know if we talked about it, but we ended up a little bit looser than what we usually run on the piston to wall. But we ended up at that point because the client didn't want to purchase new pistons. So to work around it, we bolted a torque plate on in the shop before us building the car. The previous engine builder didn't torque plate it, so when we bolted the plate on, it was already kind of loose. So to get it to be round, we had to go to 4.5, which isn't extremely loose. I mean, people used to run 5.5, 6 thou on race motors. So,
Wow.
but anytime I go over 4, I like to have good ventilation. So what we did is we went to dash 10 fittings from the valve cover. So we obviously removed the stock PCV unit, and so basically I drilled this, took the baffles out. That's very important. And then this thing also came from a powder coater, so it already had some sand underneath it. You know, the whole, you know,
Right.
bead blasting situation that you're not supposed to have. So whenever people blast this, if they don't do it with like pinch stripper, if they actually blast it and they don't take off the baffles, you're gonna lose a motor because all that media, unless it's soda, it's like a soda blast. If it's walnut blasting, glass bead blasting, and all that stuff, the media is gonna go underneath the baffles and it's gonna eat up your bearings as soon as you start the motor.
That's crazy.
So we removed the baffles. Obviously, it's a full speed density system. We're not worried about a PCV system. We're not putting this back into the intake. Everything is 100% of the oil vapors are being pulled from the engine. So we got 2 dash 10s over here. We got the dipstick that's actually has a dash 6. I don't know if you can see, but the dipstick's actually vented too. And then over here,
Damn.
there's another dash 6. So this is what they call the balance shaft inspection port. So when you're trying to time the engine, you can take this off whenever you're trying to basically put the balance shaft in phase or the oil pump in phase. Because there's 2 balance shafts on the Evo. There's the balance shafts, and then there's the balance shaft, and then there's the counterbalance shaft. There's a balance shaft that you actually have a build for, and then there's another balance shaft that's being driven by the oil pump itself.
Oh, damn.
So, you know, on all these motors, we get rid of that. So, you know, it doesn't matter if it's in phase or not because there's no shaft here.
Right.
So what we do is, or this isn't actually our idea, you know, this is a STM catch can setup, but what we like to do is, you know, put a dash 6 over here as well, so we can scavenge from here as well. So we're scavenging from 4 points in the engine to get rid of crankcase pressure. Another thing to note is whenever you're trying to go to basically whenever you're trying to do AM fittings on your valve cover, the bigger the better. The reason for that is if it's small, it's actually going to create a lot of turbulence and velocity, and it's going to pull a lot of oil vapors. The bigger it is, the less oil you're actually going to get in your catch can. You're going to get a lot of ventilation, but you're not going to get that ram effect and, you know, get the oil actually out of there.
Yeah.
Because essentially the oil vapors are just oil that's, you know, beaten into air and it's coming out. So the bigger the better, because you're not going to get that ram effect, and you're not going to fill up your catch can every 2 days or whatever.
Right.
I'm being dramatic, but you get my point. Skunk Tintic manifold. He has ID 2000s, AM fuel rail. He actually has the, I'll show you guys right now in a second. He has the Bulletproof Racing. Our good friend Alexi at Bulletproof Racing made the billet double pumper, the same thing that you guys saw with Lorenzo's, but it's a double pumper. And we're using 2 450s instead of the 255s they usually come with. And then it also comes with a custom dash 8 feed and a dash 6 return. So we're gonna do full custom lines for him and stuff. So right now, like I said, we're just waiting for the can to be made and shipped out to us, and it's gonna go on the firewall. The BFC also has an option to be mounted over here if the car doesn't have ACD. And ironically enough, this RS has ACD. So. But yeah, that's that. We got about 11 PSI of spring in there, so we can tune this thing on pump gas and E85. He wants a safe pump tune, and then he wants a you know, kill mode on E85. So that's that. This is Jeffrey's car. We're still waiting for the engine stuff to come back from our machine shop. This is a Evo 10 that we did a 3576 bolt-on turbo for. It's on the MAP cast manifold. I would bring it down, but that's gonna smash Jeff's car, obviously. We did a nice little cosmic catch can over here. I shouldn't say little, it's not really little. But what it does is basically goes behind the crash beam, and it takes one of the supports off, and it basically replaces it with the catch can. So it's a super stealthy design, and you got some big ass dash 10 lines.
Yeah, those are huge. Jeez.
Scavenging, you know.
Wow.
We upgraded his clutch to a Xetti Twin. We did a clutch master cylinder upgrade because his old one was leaking.
Because they're plastic, right? Stock?
Yeah, they're plastic. So what happens is basically you get an adapter plate and then you put an Evo 8.9 OEM one on there because it's aluminum. So
really?
That's what that's all it is. Yeah. Or you can buy an aftermarket one, which makes no sense because you're spending money. So might as well pay 50, 60 bucks more and actually get the legitimate part. You know?
Yeah.
So that's that. Like I said, the turbo is the bolt-on series. It's actually the GTX 3576, the X series, which has a 2% more efficient compressor wheel. They're great turbos. They spool up great. I still like the EFR stuff more though.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. Yeah, same thing. I like the full race kit.
That's what's gonna go on Chris's car. That's what I'm gonna show you guys in a second here in the engine room. This is the SSD that's going to Cosmic for 800 horsepower clutch pack upgrade and everything. So they're 14 disc Sportsman transmission. It's like super expensive.
Yeah, 14 disc.
Yeah. Well, on the MRs to hold power, you need a lot of clutch capacity. Yeah. But it's doable. I mean, Cosmic made like 860 or something on their dyno on a 6466.
On an MR?
MR, yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Wow.
That's nuts. This is our good buddy Vic's car. Vic's actually a very close friend of ours. So this is his very clean Evo 8. He's basically doing full bolt-ons. So we just finished doing the head studs. So we did the 1x1 method, which works perfectly fine if you do it carefully and you know exactly the sequence to follow. You can do the 1x1 method. Full timing belt, you know, it's essentially 60K service for him. He's still on the stock Evo 8 turbo, ID 1700 injectors, which I hate because they're, I'm sorry, not ID, FIC 1700 low impedance injectors. They're hands down the worst injectors made for the Evo. They only made it for like 3 months and they stopped. And actually, our good buddy Mark Phillips from Apex Tune told me about how long they had that run for and why. Well, you can tell right away as soon as you start the car and try to basically scale it on pump gas. You're not going to scale it on pump gas. It sucks. Anyway, so it's a full bolt-on car. Jeffrey did the clutch yesterday, so you know we have a single ACT monologue, ACT HDSS in there. It's a single disc. He got S2s, springs retainers that we have to do tomorrow. MAP downpipe with the dump, Apex powered coils, full bolt-ons, Walbo 450 for the fuel pump.
It's pretty much like my car.
Yeah,
like
it's
a
a full bolt-on
very
car.
similar to mine.
Stock Evo 8 turbo, which is kind of everything else is kind of overkill. So I'm gonna have to preload the wastegate quite a bit to make some good power on E85 for now until he decides to upgrade. But yeah, that's that. We got, let's see what we got here. The shop's a mess, so we
It's all good
for that. Let me show you guys this real quick. This is our good buddy Sam's motor. So when this motor came to us, it had a ring gap of 27 thou on the top ring and 70 thou on the second.
Damn.
So I don't know what drug the guy that put this motor together was on, but the motor started smoking basically like right off the bat whenever they started the car, like freshly built. So he came to me and I did a compression test and I did a leak down and he had like 80% leak down all across the board. And I'm like, I don't even know how this car is running right now.
That's crazy.
So yeah, he basically has our, he has our JRP pistons that you can kind of peep in there and see. I don't know if they can see. You can see maybe. The JRP.
Kind of.
Stage 3 beehives, GSC of course, L19s. He's on the 6466 twin scroll, and then he has our JRP ported head. So if you come over here, sorry, I know it's kind of high, but you could see.
Oh yeah.
Fully ported. You could look at the intakes as well. It takes me about 8 to 10 hours to do a head, so I put a lot of work into it. And then if you look at the intakes, it looks super shiny, but you know, I do leave it slightly rough for basically the air fuel charge to basically be able to mix and atomize properly.
Right.
It's not as critical on a fuel injected car as it is on a carbureted car, but I still like to leave it somewhat rough. It's not like extremely rough. I mean, some people just go crazy and you look at it, you're like, this is not smooth at all. That's a DSM motor that we put together. It's a 1G, it's going in a Galant. That motor that you see over there, again, everything's scattered because like we're literally running out of room. Yeah. That's Randy's motor. That was, again, built by another shop. He brought the motor to us so we could check it out, and basically re-blueprint the motor because he kind of lost faith in the shop that did the work.
Damn.
Pulled the head off. First thing that I saw is clear signs of sandblasting the head, because as soon as I pulled it off, there was a bunch of sand sitting underneath the head. Basically.
Oh, jeez.
So you don't sandblast 46.3 heads. If you do, it's extremely hard to get them out. You gotta sonic clean it like 10 times, and if you're lucky, you'll get it out of the oil galleys, basically. So we went ahead and did that. Finally got everything out. Upgraded his rods because he had White Cycle 1400, the 921s with the standard pins, which are a big no-no. And then he had some Crowder? I think Crowder edge beams. It was a while back. I don't know. So we basically got him some I-beams with regular ARP 2000s. We upgraded the pins to Manly 300 thou pins, which are 9310 alloy, which is not as strong as tool steel, but you know, when you're running it at that thickness, it's pretty. You can't. I mean, you'll lose something else before the pin actually bends.
Damn.
And that's what happens, by the way. The pin doesn't break; it bends, and then you know it causes chaos. Because it usually, like, what'll happen is it'll pull the bottom of the skirt of the piston off, and then you know the piston's traveling on its own. You know.
Jeez.
At 6,000 RPM or like at 9,000 RPM, you can imagine the chaos that's going to cause. So over here, this is our good buddy Robert Johnson's motor. It's a VR38. As you can see, there's 6 cylinders instead of 4. Unusual, right? He threw a rod on, well actually he yanked the pin. So the same thing that I was just talking about, he yanked the pin. He had a stock block. They didn't know how much power the car was making. It was being E-tuned in Texas from California. So he ended up yanking a pin out of a piston, and then it just caused chaos. He got lucky because usually if you throw a rod on the GTRs on the passenger side, what it'll do is it'll take out the diff. The diff is super expensive, as you can imagine.
Are you serious? Really? That's what happens every time?
Not every time. On this one, he actually didn't. Yeah. So what happened is actually this on the passenger side, I'm sorry, on the driver's side he threw it, but what happened is whenever it yanked, it also hit the other side and actually took out the other piston. Well, took out the other rod. So we had a pin failure here that essentially led to the rod failure on this side.
Got it.
So the block was junk. Obviously, crank was junk. The heads were junk. Well, one of the heads. This bottom, well, this obviously was cracked in half, and then there's a bottom girdle that the oil pump sits in, so that was all cracked. So we literally had to get everything brand new. We got a brand new block, we got 2 brand new heads, sent it to our friends at D-Sport, got brand new, obviously, valves, upgraded valve springs. We actually got Tomei 274 camshafts. So he was on a stock frame FP greens. When that happened, obviously, you know, overpowered the stock bottom end. So now with the built bottom end, well, let me go back to that real quick. So we got him a brand new crankshaft. It's been WPC'd already and super micro polished. So if you come over here and look at the crank, you'll see it looks weird, and it's because you can see the textures kind of on the surface. Oh yeah, that's WPC'd, and then it's super micro polished all across. Another thing, if you guys remember the previous shop that I was at, me and Josh made a video. Of me assembling a VR38, and I was using the graded pistons from Manly, and that's perfectly fine. But as I was explaining in that previous video, the VR38s don't come torque plated from the factory, so you get some distortion. from the get-go. So if you buy graded pistons from Manley or CP or whoever offers it, and you put them in there, those pistons are meant to be ran with a distorted block. So they're actually meant to be ran in an environment that's not perfectly oval and true. Perfectly round and true. That's what I'm trying to say. So we got some custom-made Molly pistons, which are very slightly oversized. I mean, they're so slightly oversized that I can still use my 95.5 piston ring compressor and basically put this in there and, you know, put it in the block. But again, it's very slightly oversized, and the reason for that is so our friends at D-Sport could bolt up a torque plate and actually hone it with a torque plate. So we actually have a true block, and we didn't take off too much material, so it still has the obviously the factory sprayed, you know, the plasma coating, the coating that's sprayed on from the factory, which only protrudes about 10 to 15 thou, so you can't really go too far off. We don't really like sleeving them. Some people do, some people don't. A lot of shops haven't had a lot of luck with that. The blocks are just kind of hard to sleeve. A lot of shops do sleeve them, but you don't feel the need to for these power levels. This bottom end is actually rated for 1600 horsepower. So
really?
Yeah. With the stock girdle, stock main bolts, stock head bolts. Actually, the head bolts provide the same clamping force that a 625 does. My good friend Mike Ferreira at D-Sport actually tested that. They bolted the torque plate on with 625s from ARP, and checked the distortion there, and then they bolted some stock head bolts on there and checked the distortion, and it was the same. So it's providing the same clamping force.
Wow.
Crillo Pro H-beam connecting rods with the car bolts. These are literally the best bolts you can buy on the market. They are just so superior to anything else that anybody makes, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember when I was assembling my motor at the old shop, at the place I used to work at. We had to go to almost 70 foot-pounds of torque to get to the proper stretch, or even get to the beginning stages of the stretch that I was supposed to be in. Now, that's a very debatable point because, in my opinion, stretch is more important than the actual torque. So I'm not really concerned, even if I go to 75 or 80 foot-pounds. But obviously you don't want to go too high, because then that means there's something wrong. Either the threads aren't clean, the fastener has an issue, both, or like, you know, you just need more lubricant to put it in there. That sounds naughty, man. Anyway, so the car bolts from CP Carrillo, the car bolts, every single time, and I'm not being a fanboy because I use Manley stuff for literally everything else. Even in mine, I didn't have Carrillo bolts, but like Carrillo rods, but they're just so, like, the threads are so clean. I mean, the bolts are so precisely machined. It's just, everything is perfect. Like, you just put a little bit of lubricant on it. The first try, I mean, you go to the least amount of torque, you're usually within spec on the stretch. So, very impressed with that, especially on this VR. I mean, because even when I'm checking bearing clearances, I don't just torque them, I actually stretch them to make sure I'm actually at the exact clamping force that the fastener is going to be at. And then I check the rod clearance. Using King bearings, XP series, the PMAX coat, their new coating that they offer, by the way, ended up at 2.4 thou on every single rod, which I was just blown away by. I mean, usually it's close, you know, you're within a tenth of a thou or 2/10 of a thou of each other, but man, it's a high quality bearing. And I mean, you do pay the price for it, you do pay for GTR, you know, you do pay the premium for it.
Yeah.
A couple $100 for the set. And actually for the mains, using the standard set, I ended up at 1.3 to 1.5. So the mains were slightly, you know, variant in the clearance, but 1.3 to 1.5 on a journal that's 2.5 inches is not really that well.
Yeah.
So today I ordered a set of extra clearance. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the extra clearance set, which is gonna be a thinner bearing. We're gonna put it on the side that's not loaded, so it's gonna be on the block side. So you want the thicker bearing to be on the side that's loaded. So that's going to be obviously where the crankshaft is being housed, so on the bottom portion of the girdle.
Right.
Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, super micro polish crank, brand new heads, all those upgrades. So I actually, he has a 800 horsepower GTR GR6 built from Jack's Transmissions.
Oh.
So I actually upgraded him to a 18 disc. So he's getting billet baskets. Those clutches are going to be able to hold 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. There is a cheaper alternative. If you're on EcuTech, you can actually mess with the clutch pressures and actually make it hold 1,000 foot-pounds without having to spend that much money and go to an 18 plate. But he's on a cob, and I don't want to have him change ECUs just because of that.
Right.
That, and then he had PPG first gear, and then the 2 through 4. I don't know. Did you record the GR6 stuff that I did here?
I don't think I did.
Okay, well, you will later, but basically the gear cluster, the GR6 is a big transmission. It has a rear differential, it has a gear cluster, and then it has the clutch unit, and then it has 2 valve bodies. It has the clutch valve body, and then it has the main valve body. So the center section is what houses the gears. So the 2 through 4, the 2 through 6, I'm sorry, on that car were just super micro polish, which is better than OEM because, you know, you basically reduce those, you know, stress crack risers, so to speak. Right. But it's still an OEM gear. It's still a cast gear, you know. So we upgraded him to PPG, full PPG set. So you already had the first gear. So now the 2 through 6 is going to be PPG as well. Right. Very expensive, but they're billet gears and they're kind of loud compared to like the Albin stuff. Like the Albin stuff is just the same price, but it's a little bit more quiet. But you know, PPG, everybody knows the name, you know. And we also got him an ETS GTX 3076 stock location kit. So I was going to be able to make up to 1,300 horsepower if he wishes, but he wants to keep it under that.
That's what a GTX will make with these.
GTX 3076s, yep.
Wow.
They're rated for 1,300 horse.
That's crazy.
So remember the X is the billet compressor wheel, so it's 2% more efficient. Yeah. That 2% makes a pretty big difference. But yeah, you got 2 GTX. So imagine if it makes,
okay, yeah, correct.
You know, if it makes 500 on an Evo, 30 pounds.
Take
30 pounds.
Take 2 of them.
2 of them. It's, you know, it's the same amount of air that's being moved.
Right.
30 pounds is 30 pounds. Now, how many cylinders you have, that dictates a lot. You know what I mean? Like, you see these, you know, Lambos that are running 30 pounds on a V10 running 30 pounds on the same size turbo is a lot more than, you know, what we run on like a 4B11 or a 4G63. So the engine size makes a big difference on how much boost you run. Right. That's why when people choke the, you know, their motors, they're usually like, oh, okay, you don't need as much boost now because the displacement's going to make power. Right. So when you put a 5.2 liter Lamborghini motor, you know, pair them up with some precision turbos, you know, they don't need to run a lot of boost because the motor itself can actually make a lot of power. Right. So that's that, and then we just got this stuff back from our machine shop today. This is Chris Rarikian, Supercross Fest Facts. Some of you guys might know him from YouTube too. So this is his 2.0 build that we're doing. So it's a wet sleeve, LA sleeve, sleeve block. We've got about 3 thou of protrusion on the sleeve. So basically what that means is it's pushed up about 3 thou, and then the deck is actually shaved down. So it's decked down and the sleeve is actually pushed up. So what that does is it actually mimics an O-ring. So it's essentially a big ass O-ring. Oh, huh. Still running the factory MLS. We got our JRP spec diamonds for the 4B11. So now we can actually offer this for the people that are trying to build their 4B11 and want to use our pistons. So again, we got the horizontal gas ports over there. I like using the horizontals instead of the verticals because the verticals, if you're running them on pump gas and stuff like that, they usually clog up. And then you end up having a variable compression situation. And that's debatable too because, you know, the pressure will find its way underneath from the other holes that are not clogged. Right. But you just, I don't know, man. I just rather do it this way because you don't get any carbon buildup on the sides over here. Dry lubricant coating. So we keep piston to wall in mind when we're doing this because this adds about half a thou to a thou to the actual clearance. So you got to keep that in mind whenever you're clearancing the block. You don't want to go too loose and then have this wear off and, you know, now you have like fucking 5 thou piston to wall. These are diamond / trend pins. So these are actually etched 13. These are the 200 thou wall Our 4G63 stuff can actually go up to 225 thou. Just to give you a perspective, this will, I don't know where the pins are, it was here today. This will actually be stronger than a 300 thou Manly 9310 alloy pin. And this is literally 90 thousandths thinner. You got the pin? Thank you, sir. So this is a 250, this is a 210. This will for sure overpower this. Like this can take a lot more. And again, all I'm talking about is the actual tensile strength.
Right.
So the tensile rating, that's okay.
Yeah.
They're Edge 13 tool steel. Nothing's gonna happen. That's fine. Calm down. But yeah, so basically, 9310 alloy has tensile strength of 189,000 psi. Yeah. And this has about 279,000 psi. So about almost 100,000 psi more tensile strength. I was gonna drop it again. We get a standard set of NPR ring packs. Again, CP Carrillo connecting rods with the car bolts. Can't say enough good stuff about this. Stock crank, ARP 625s, torque plated obviously with everything else that we do. ARP main studs as well. And then over here, we got Chris's head. Let's see where I can put it so I can show you. Some stuff around here. Alright.
He's running S2s?
Nope. Cal4 214Cs.
What is the
big cams? Very big cams. And then over here, if you see, this is also JRP ported cylinder head. So this is hand ported. What's going on, Sal? How are you, bro?
Damn, crazy.
And then you can also peep the chambers. Semi-polished chambers, again done in-house. Ferro Competition Series +1 valves. And then I opened up, I'm not gonna turn it around, but I opened up the exhaust ports a little bit because they're super tiny.
Right, you were telling me that too, actually, that 4B spool faster because of the smaller exhaust ports.
A lot of velocity.
Right.
So look at that.
Oh damn.
And then look at that.
What?
That's
oh.
a 4G.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're literally, you can barely fit 2 fingers in there.
Yeah, you could see the size difference just looking at the two. Huh. Crazy.
Yeah, so he's actually gonna be, he was gonna be pump gas E85. He didn't want to do flex fuel. He was gonna do pump gas in E85, and I talked him into doing E85 and E90. Just do, 30-pound, E80 pump E85 tune, and then do a kill mode
on E90.
E90 tune. Yeah.
You might as well at this point when you.
Yeah, and then he agrees too, because a station opened up near his house anyway, like within walking distance. Literally.
Oh, okay.
So,
perfect.
yeah, it's literally a no-brainer to go ahead and do that.
Right.
And then this head is actually shimmed, so it's fully shimmed right now. We don't need to worry about any of the buckets. A lot of the times, what we see from, the work of some, I guess, competitors or whatever. They will basically just drop cams in. They won't check the clearance between the bucket and the actual cam lobe and the base circle. Yeah, that can cause a lot of problems. If you have too little clearance, you're gonna eat up your cam. If you have too much clearance, you're gonna have basically a very loud noise coming from your top end, and then that can throw off the tuner because the knock sensor can go off. Knock sensor is very sensitive to sound. Right. You could have an intercooler pipe hitting something and it'll pick it up, let alone something in the actual valve train. Right. Having excessive clearance. Huh. Again, it goes back to what I was saying with building the engines tighter, because then I don't have to worry about the knock sensor going crazy, so I don't have to desensitize the knock sensor when I'm tuning the car. So I actually know there's a built-in knock sensing system that can actually pull timing from the factory, which Mitsubishi or Nissan spend millions of dollars on R&D, so you can't beat it. You want to basically not desensitize it if you don't absolutely have to. Right. That's another reason we build them tight, and then they last a long time. Yeah, because you're saying about blow by and everything else. Blow by, yeah. So the way the rings work, usually the more boost you throw at them, the better they want to seal, but they can't physically. That's why we use the actual gas ports, and this combined with a torque plated block that's true. That's a true cylinder. Yeah, and it's not distorted. I made a video. Some of you guys may have watched that video where we showed the importance of torque plating. And on a 4G63 we had about 1.5 of deviation, or distortion I should say. Yeah. So if you're running a total of 3,000s or 3,500s of piston to wall clearance, when you bolt that head on, at some spots you have 2,000s now. Jeez. So that's extremely tight. And on pump gas, that's even more critical. I mean, on E85 you have the high, latent heat of vaporization, so it does pull a lot of heat out of it and it doesn't expand as much, so you can actually build them tighter. But yeah, just things to keep in mind. So that's why we torque plate them. We put these gas ports on there so it actually seals up better. What were we talking about that you said I mentioned blow by?
With the clearances, I don't know, tighter motor.
Oh yeah. So the thing is, you could basically have 5,000 piston to wall or 3,000 piston to wall and run the same ring gaps, right? Well, if you don't really think about it and really start focusing on what's happening in the combustion chamber or in the engine actually, even if you're running the same gap, if you're running a looser piston to wall, there isn't a lot of tension on the ring itself. So the looser it is, even though you have the same gap, the ring's not sealing that good. So the tighter it is, the more pressure that ring's gonna have. So the more tension it's gonna have. The more compression it's gonna hold, the longer it's gonna last. Same thing for the cylinders. I mean, cylinders wear out too, So yeah, again, that's why we build them on the tighter side. We usually run about 4,000 high horsepower 4B11s, 3.5 for street motors that aren't going to see over 800 horsepower. In theory, you could actually run 3.5 on a race motor and be okay with it. Like on Jesus's, we were at 4,000 and he's trying to he's trying to spray, and that's not a problem. Especially on the 80 or E90 he's going to be on. That's not a problem at all. It's not going to expand nearly as much to do any better. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have 4 other motors that we gotta build. We got Eddie's motor, we got Mark Phillips, our good friend Mark. He's also getting JRP spec pistons. This is a standard rod 2-liter. His block was trash, so we ordered a new one. He ordered a brand new crankshaft. And we basically got Manly 300M connecting rods, which are the strongest connecting rods that you can buy. The 300M is a very strong material. It almost looks identical to the I-beam, regular I-beam, but it's not. It's a whole different animal. You cannot bend that thing. You cannot bend that rod. And I mean, these rods are strong, but these rods are super strong and they're super light. These are about 100 something grams lighter than the 300Ms or the regular I-beams. Oh wow. Which makes a big difference. You're talking about half a pound across the whole engine. Yeah. But the 300Ms are pretty much bulletproof. With 625s and then we WPC treated the rod. So the rod actually has the same texture as the crankshaft does. So a little bit better oil shedding, and what happens is basically it doesn't have too much windage or in the crankcase, I should say. Yeah. So the easier it can cut through the oil, just like the billet crankshafts that have that nice knife-edged counterweight. So instead of having this big bulky piece counterweight, you have a nice knife edge. And what happens is whenever it's turning at that that RPM, because you literally have hurricane level winds in an combustion engine whenever you're operating and you're throwing that much boost at it. It's a crazy environment in there. So the easier this thing can actually turn, because you also gotta think about the blow-by that's in the motor now, right? Well, this thing has to turn and it has to basically cut through that oil vapor. So if you have big bulky counterweights like this, like the stock counterweights, what'll happen is basically it'll aerate the oil, so it'll be harder for the motor to turn, A, so you lose horsepower, and B, this actually beats air into the oil, so you get aeration. Aeration is whenever you basically literally beat the air into the oil. And then whenever you have a friction surface, like a bearing, per se, right? Bearing, other critical parts of the engine that need oil. When you have aerated oil going there, you don't get a good film strength. It's the same thing as like running a non-synthetic oil to like 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That thing's not gonna have a film. You know what I mean? So you're literally doing the same thing. If you have aerated oil or like super hot oil or a combination of both, you're gonna basically degrade that oil film. So you know, that's why we WPC treat a lot of stuff. I'm not saying you're gonna have failures. I'm just saying these are just things to consider, and these are reasons why we do things the way we do them. That's why the billet cranks have that knife edge. You know, the higher end cranks, I should say, doesn't necessarily have to be billet, but it's hard to, you know, cast the crankshaft with a, you know, pointy counterweight. That's just, I don't think it's possible. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And then we're waiting for my motor stuff to come back and Jeffrey's stuff to come back. But we have a lot of planned projects right now, so that's the least of my worries right now. Again, still, I don't think my car's ever gonna go together, dude. Honestly, at this point, it's like
it will.
Every day, it's like, okay, there's 2 more motors. Shit, like, yeah. But we're blessed, man. I mean, we're super thankful, you know, to people like you that have supported us since day one, to all the viewers, to all the people that actually trust us with their cars. So, you know, we're definitely not complaining. You know, we pump them out. You know, a motor a day keeps the bankruptcy away. I guess. That's a good one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we got a few transmission builds that we're working on. Although I'm kind of holding off on that because that's taking a lot of time and I don't have a dedicated space for the trans stuff.
Right.
So we got some big news coming up pretty soon. And when I say pretty soon, I'm talking like 2-3 weeks. We got some crazy big news. So,
well, hopefully my car will be fixed with a clutch and hit by then.
Your car is gonna definitely get a special treatment.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, fucker?
What?
I said, what's up, fucker?
Hey, you fixed the go-kart or what?
I'm working on it right now, dog. As we speak.
I got you on speaker. The internet can hear you.
The internet, I said, what's up?
When are you gonna bring the cart back down?
Who's that? What the fuck feels like it wants to fucking run.
Alright. Another JRP filming session. Wrap. Good times. Trying to comprehend what Ronnie's saying because I'm not smart enough to just have my mind work at that level.
Ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Peace out, Jeff. Good seeing you. Later. Later. Good seeing you.
Oh.
Thank you for all the knowledge that I kind of understand, but not really.
Absolutely, man. You know I can talk forever.
What do you want to tell the people before you leave?
Te las lavas.
Later.
Later.
Great time filming at the shop. I'm so happy every time I get a day off to go film and do something for you guys because it's so rare that I'm not like fully stacked with something to do. We'll be back soon. If you heard Ronnie, there's some exciting changes for the shop coming very, very soon. It definitely will be in a future video as well, and it's actually going to be an opportunity for you guys to get involved with the shop as well. I'll give you guys more information how. Finally back after a quick little update at the shop. I know the uploads have been sporadic. I always get so hyped when I'm able to go film for you guys. I've literally been working like anywhere from 10 to 12 hours every time I'm at work instead of just my standard 8-hour shift, just because I'm so determined to try to finish my car, buy all the parts necessary to finish it, which I almost have all of them. I just need a few more things, and I just really look forward to putting the car together for you guys. It's been a big emotional journey trying to get this car together. As you guys know, it's been almost a year. I've had the Evo for a year, and it's been a year in the making in the sense of like collecting all the parts, getting everything ready, just because I moved, the big breakup, a lot of family and personal issues that I've been battling, as well as like clinical depression and like other stuff that were just kind of secondary, or kind of like it was like a domino effect of everything I was going through. I've never really been a depressive person, or like really been I've never focused on like my situation in the sense of like, oh, boo-hoo me or anything, but it just kind of was a direct result of everything I was going through. So the fact that I'm finally able to slap this car together and film it all for you guys makes me super excited. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, please give this video a big thumbs up, share it. There's a lot of really exciting stuff happening with the shop. You guys are going to see some really cool videos when I'm able to put my car together. I can't wait to unveil all the parts I've been collecting for you guys, because I've been kind of keeping it a secret from you. So that'll be really cool to show you. I'll see you guys all on the next video. Peace out, stay positive. See you guys in the next one. Later.